this is Clara, not my assistant. She's some other word.
I'm Miss Clara.
Yeah, my carer. She cares, so I don't have to.
Whether you love or hate Clara Oswald as a character, no one can deny that she is indeed a unique companion, both in terms of story and her dynamic with the Doctor. Her relationship with the Doctor is defined through and through by her own character. Unlike many of the companions we have met before, Clara has equal power to call the shots. She establishes that in her very first appearance as Clara Oswald with 11 back in season 7.
Come back tomorrow. Ask me again.
Why?
Because tomorrow I might say yes.
And this tendency for an equal dynamic in the show continues until her last episode. Despite the fact that she was introduced and supposedly established with Matt Smith, the real challenge to her character and relationship with the Doctor and the most dramatic moments appear when 12, Peter Capaldi's Doctor, enters the picture. The 12th Doctor and Clara have one of the funniest and most energized chemistries between the Doctor and a companion. Like Missy noted, they're perfect for each other.
The control freak and the man who should never be controlled. You'd go to hell if she asked. And she would.
Both witty and extremely intelligent, they bounce off each other with ease and finally let Moffat's fantastical machine gun dialogue be totally justified and brought beautifully to life with these amazing actors. It is also with 12 that Clara arguably gets a real personality. From a plot device in season 7, she transforms into a fully fledged character in seasons 8 and 9. In fact, both Clara and 12 grow and change together, influencing each other. And it is this dynamic and this character journey that gives these seasons the dramatic edge that makes them so compelling to watch. Clara is one of my favorite companions on the show, and in my opinion, her relationship with 12 is one of the best written character dramas. In this video essay, I'm going to analyze their relationship with all the ups and downs, the borderline toxic obsession with one another, how they both manage to make each other better and worse at the same time, and why their ending perfectly summarizes everything about these characters and their dynamic. I also feel the need to say that by expressing my love for this particular story and Clara, I am in no way trashing other companions and relationships on the show. I love Doctor Who, and the story of Clara and 12 touched me so much that I decided to make a video about them, but I'm not saying that other companions and their dynamics are less important. Perhaps if you're not a fan of Clara, this video will help you see her and Peter Capaldi's Doctor in a different light. Either way, like this video and prepare for an intense emotional ride.
Thingy. They're not me one. They're asking questions one.
Like I already said, the character of Clara was supposedly established in season 7, but however good the chemistry between Clara and 11 was, the focus of the season was never on their relationship, but on the mystery of the impossible girl, which inevitably detached the audience from her actual character. Unfortunately, the plot was very wonky in the first place. To quote a friend, the impossible thing with the impossible girl is that it is impossible to remember what the fuck was going on with her. And once this shtick was over, Clara was finally given a chance to be a real person. I believe Deep Breath is a great starter episode, both for Peter Capaldi's Doctor and new Clara. It perfectly sets the tone for future episodes, possible character development and Doctor-companion dynamic. First of all, the Doctor playfully insults her right off the bat.
You know that I speak dinosaur.
He's not Clara. I'm Clara.
Well, you're very similar heights. Maybe you should wear labels.
Something that continues to be a theme throughout.
How do I look?
Sort of short and roundish, but with a good personality, which is the main thing.
I meant my clothes, I just changed.
Oh, good for you. Still making an effort.
Look at me.
Yep, looking.
Seriously?
Why is your face all coloured in? From the date guy. Well, it's too late. You've taken your makeup off.
No, I haven't. I'm still wearing my makeup.
Right away, you see that they're a perfect pairing, matching in terms of wit, intelligence, and curiosity about the world, as they will continue to one-up each other in future seasons. Not only do they fit together well, they also obviously need each other. Clara's mystery pixie girl veil is lifted and her real emotion and negative traits revealed to us. No, she's not a Mary Sue and not perfect. The Doctor, on the other hand, does not yet know who he is, but poses the question that will define the whole of season 8. Is he a good man? And he will rely on Clara to guide him, implying that she knows him best out of all previous companions. Interestingly enough, 12 also spells out the dynamic shift from 11.
Clara, I'm not your boyfriend.
Signaling that this will be different from the flirty, fanfic-feeding banter Clara used to have. The flowery getting-to-know period is over. These two are now equals with a responsibility and a duty of care for one another. This is going to get much deeper, but all the same, much more fun. I already mentioned that their chemistry is amazing, but seriously, the dialogue between Clara and 12 is so fucking funny.
Clara, could you fetch me the dead one?
Maybe I could fetch you a cup of tea while I'm at it.
Ooh. Yes, and a punch in the face too.
Not a very neat suggestion.
Fair enough.
You can feel their banter is genuine, and the actors are having so much fun with their lines. While Moffat's writing is often validly criticized, in my opinion he writes one of the best dialogue in the show, and his style works really well with passionate geniuses like Clara and 12.
What's that?
It's a scanner. I'm scanning. Why do I keep you around?
Because the alternative would be developing a conscience of your own. Scanning for what?
I used to have a teacher exactly like you.
You still do. Pay attention.
Each line is said in characters' unmistakable tone and voice, and beside plot information it carries their individual traits, their familiarity and genuine care for one another. Their dialogue, whether funny, expositional or emotional, usually bears levels of history, trust and genuine emotion. You believe that these characters have traveled together for a long time off-screen and have come to care for each other deeply. Their words are often coded in meanings which you don't see during first viewing, like the tip of the iceberg. You come to realize that there's so much more underneath, but only after you've collided with it and got hurt, as is the case if you get too invested in their story. And the story is extremely tragic. The truth is, they're both very complicated people. Like Missy said, the control freak and the man who should never be controlled. When two equally strong-willed people collide, there's bound to be drama. And this character drama is what drives season 8 and 9, despite largely lackluster season arcs. The reason why tensions are so high between Clara and the Doctor is that they're presented as equals in the TARDIS, something that unfortunately has not been seen in New Who up to that dynamic. The Doctor comes to Clara for help first in the Good Man storyline.
Clara, be my pal. Tell me. Am I a good man?
He evidently trusts her judgment, and for her to know what the Doctor should be the most. Clara is also expected to carry emotional labor for 12 and socialize his unlikable persona, even though in some cases he comes off as an outright asshole.
I'm very sorry for your loss. I'll do all I can to solve the death of your friend / family member / pet.
To be fair, a lot of previous Doctors needed a companion, usually a human companion, to ground them and make them better. One great example of this was Tennant's Time Lord Victorious when he absolutely flew off the handle without Donna. The truth is, despite 12's supposed reputation of the Dark Doctor initially, he's not actually a dark or problematic Doctor at all. Yes, he can be very cruel, but which Doctor was not? I mean, we're talking about a man who tried to teach Missy to be good. This is the loveliest man in the universe. He can be mean, grumpy, and absolutely tone-deaf in social situations, but when it comes to saving people, he does not sugarcoat the danger or show teary-eyed neglect like the 10th Doctor did. His superficial heartlessness is a show he puts on for other people he doesn't like. Throughout his run, 12 is given plenty of weapons and supreme power that would be dangerous in the wrong hands, but he always vocally refuses to use them. Well, unless Clara is involved, then he's very much tempted to tear the world apart. Later we see how much he depends on Clara to bring him to reality and remind him to be a good man, even though that is what he has always been, but this relationship often works both ways. Clara cannot be the only one to carry the morals of the group. At some point, 12 has to face how much of a destructive influence on Clara he has been and judge how good of a person Clara is.
You were an exceptional doctor, Clara.
Thank you.
Goodness had nothing to do with it.
While the Doctor was pondering whether he's a good doctor, Clara was asking the question of how far she could go in order to actually become the Doctor, testing and crossing the line countless times. The show itself has toyed and teased us with this idea for ages, and they even replaced Capaldi's eyes with Janus in the opening sequence as a way to prove this point, and also have a cool shot to include in the trailers.
Clara Oswald has never existed. I'm the Doctor.
Her determination to become, and in some cases outdo the Doctor, is what ultimately and rightfully led to her end. The first real death of a companion on screen of New Who, which, she then escaped, but we'll get to that. While her relationship with 12 was able to make her an exceptional Doctor, I believe that it often brought out some of her worst character traits yet. This was foreshadowed in Deep Breath as well, when we see Clara finally get angry and show some real, unfiltered emotion, in contrast to Season 7.
The lake is ruffled at last. I often wondered what you'd be like when you lost your temper.
Knowing the Doctor the best, she takes on some of his worst traits. Her natural curiosity and bravery become dangerous recklessness, and her cunning nature turns her into a compulsive liar in season 8 when she leads what is essentially a double life, and constantly lying to both the Doctor and her boyfriend Danny Pink. I have my own complaints about Danny Pink's character and role in the story. Frankly, I think he's a controlling, toxic, and needy asshole, but Clara is also not the most innocent person in this relationship, first covering up her double life and later outright lying about it. Doctor's necessary cruelty often turns her into a cold-hearted, calculating hero. In the end, we get a character who is basically an imprint of the Doctor on the human companion. Brave, funny, curious, compassionate, empathetic, but reckless, arrogant, often cold and even cruel. She attempts to apply this cruelty in the episode with the mummy, and does the role awfully well, even if she does not enjoy it at the moment.
He says he can save you.
Now that I've given some insight into how the characters of Clara and the Doctor developed and influenced each other, I am going to talk about the character drama. I should clarify before people get offended and angry, I personally do not ship Clara and 12 in the romantic sense, even though the show has lines like this.
When do I not see you? Clara Oswald, you'll never look any different to me.
There was one other man. But that would never have worked out.
And shows affection like this.
He doesn't know we're here, does he?
Okay.
I'm not. This is not off!
And the Doctor literally cannot stop saying her name.
Clara.
I also don't think this is the case of just pure bromance. I believe that these two share a very deep connection and a very special relationship. It is not romantic love or friendly love, but rather a deep sense of trust and commitment. Like Missy said, I swear this woman has all the best lines on the show.
Try, nano-brain, to rise above the reproductive frenzy of your noisy little food chain and contemplate friendship.
They're not only great friends, but they also depend on each other heavily and often to a fault. They always come back for each other, they're willing to make any sacrifice and walk through fire to do so. This dependency is what drives much of the plot and drama in these seasons, and I'm willing to go as far as to say that this relationship is codependent and borderline obsessive and unhealthy, because who knows how far these two would go for each other and who they would destroy in the process. However, I still think that there is something beautiful and mesmerizing in the amount of trust between these two, and how much goodness this insane hybrid of a Time Lord and machine human can achieve. The extent of their codependency is first revealed in the episode Mummy on the Orient Express, which is supposed to be their last adventure before saying goodbye to Travels, and it is very bittersweet. Mummy on the Orient Express is where the turning point of their relationship happens, after the emotional climax in the previous two episodes. In The Caretaker, Clara is forced to choose between Danny Pink and the Doctor, a choice so problematic I don't even know where to begin, and then in Kill the Moon she finally makes the decision to leave the Doctor after his absolutely inhumane, brutal behavior that left her deciding the fate of a planet. She keeps testing her limit, and evidently is not done with her quest of becoming the Doctor herself, which she actually does in season 9. But the episode eventually has Clara confront the reality of traveling with the Doctor and admit to herself that she actually enjoys the thrill, the danger. She enjoys fighting the Doctor, but ultimately trusting him with her life. She is what one would call an adrenaline junkie, only the drug she needs is an idiot with a pox. She rightfully compares their relationship to an addiction in this very episode.
An addiction.
Well, you can't really tell if something's an addiction till you try and give it up.
However hard she tried, she could not leave. This is the first time Clara understands that their relationship is bordering on unhealthy, because the combo of their traits will never allow them to stop and could potentially hurt others in the process. We see the full scale of what Clara is capable of in the beginning of season 8 finale, the two-parter Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Danny Pink meets his untimely end just as Clara is about to tell him the truth, apologize and redeem herself. The development becomes instantly reversed, as after his death, Clara deludes herself that she is owed a different fate. Grief often clouds judgment and changes people, of course, but this confidence in the ability to change time is picked up from the seemingly all-powerful and rule-changing Time Lord, and Clara believes herself to be equal with him. This is all revealed in what I believe is one of the most brilliant and heartbreaking scenes of Clara's run, in which Clara drugs and practically holds the Doctor and herself at gunpoint to convince him to save Danny Pink. Not only is Jenna Coleman's performance absolutely incredible, touching every little fiber of my soul, the sheer cruelty with which Clara's character approaches this is terrifying. All compassion and sensitivity so typical of this character is gone out the window once someone she loves is hurt, a trait we sadly witness too many times in the Doctor, especially in this incarnation. It's almost scary how much Clara copies the Doctor in this instant. She echoes him, saying, "Time can be rewritten," and "do as you're told." When the Doctor refuses to change history, she breaks down but does not repent, showing that she was indeed serious about her intentions and meant every single word. This reaction is what convinces the Doctor, and in Capaldi's brilliant performance you can see how much it wounds him to see what he has turned his best friend into. His worst fear, a thing that they've been building up the whole of season 8, has reached a climax in this scene. Clara has finally become the Doctor, the cruel, arrogant and reckless type. Clara is asking for the impossible, to essentially break the rules of life because she has lost someone she loved, and the Doctor obliges, because he does not want to lose someone he loves. He shows the depth of his care for her in a simple phrase.
Do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would make a difference?
But seeing Clara do terrible things out of grief and love, something that he understands all too well, pains him greatly.
Clara, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm exactly what you deserve.
In this line, the Doctor lets Clara know that she has finally officially become his equal. The anger and grief in Capaldi's voice is unmistakable. This is a breaking point for these two, conflict that will not be resolved by the end of the two-parter because the ending is bittersweet. The two friends expertly lie to each other not to hurt each other's feelings.
Never trust a hug. It's just a way to hide your face.
They're made to think that this is over, that they could never recover from the damage they've done, but they cannot help but return to each other because that is simply the nature of their relationship, also why they deserved such a traumatic resolution at the end of season 9. If season 8 was asking if the Doctor was a good man and how far Clara is willing to go to become him, season 9 is about how far the Doctor is willing to go for Clara. This story and the resolution are mirrored in a way. If before Clara was becoming cruel to save someone she loved, it is now the Doctor who is willing to walk all over his principles to save Clara. The concept is introduced in the opening two-parter The Magician's Apprentice and The Wish's Familiar. Clara is similarly incinerated in front of the Doctor's eyes while he's powerless to do anything, and the audience is tricked into thinking that he's ready to shoot little Davros, a child in need, to change the course of history and bring Clara back. He does not shoot anyone, of course, yet, but in fact shows compassion that backfires in his face. This episode sets the tone for the whole season, testing the Doctor's patience and love for Clara with every future episode, until it culminates in the famous two-parter, Heaven Sent and Hell Bent. These two episodes, written by Stephen Moffat, elicited very polarized responses from fans. Heaven Sent is universally acknowledged to be a masterpiece. I will go as far as to say that it was one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever. It is essentially a one-man show. The incredible Peter Capaldi gives us 60 minutes of utter talent, coupled with Rachel Talalay's brilliant direction of one of Moffat's best scripts. Hellbent, on the other hand, is a jumbled mess of themes and arcs, all of Moffat's worst writing in one episode, failing to live up to the hype and deliver resolution to the convoluted mystery he himself came up with. The hybrid. The fuck is the hybrid? And pompous representation of Time Lords that has no real bearing on the story, as well as refusing to actually let characters face consequences of their actions. The only thing worth talking about from Hellbent is the final resolution of Doctor and Clara arc. To talk about this, however, I should mention the episode which preceded the finale and brought a very dignified and deserved ending to Clara, essentially closing her character development in a near perfect way. In Face the Raven, Clara finally faces the consequences of her recklessness and desire to become the Doctor and pays the full price for playing with death. She's given a very dignified send-off. The Doctor once more confesses his love to her without actually saying the words, and Clara tells him not to avenge her death, fully realizing and admitting her own blame.
Everything you're about to say, I already know.
She knows how the Doctor, particularly this Doctor, reacts to losing a loved one, and understands how important she is to him, and yet, once again, she decides to rise above it and be mature, ending the relationship peacefully. She faces the Raven brave, stoic and composed, having accepted her death and her responsibility for it, finally completing her arc in the only way possible for this character, and it is beautiful. The Doctor, of course, reacts appropriately. Despite Clara's warning about revenge, 12 cannot help it. It's been building up throughout the season. Deeply wounded, grieving, and enraged, the Doctor focuses his fury and pain on the people he thinks are responsible, the Time Lords. In his irrational way of thinking, he mirrors Clara's reaction to Danny Pink's death. He thinks he is owed a better fate for Clara, and that is why he goes along with the Time Lords' torture device and their twisted game in Heaven Sent. I'm not going to pretend that Clara is the first companion that causes the Doctor to lose his mind, or that the Doctor in general never came close to letting his dark side out, but in the case of Clara's death, 12 is also willing to defy the order of life and death completely to bring her back, and his desire for revenge is slow-burning, patient, born of natural stubbornness. Stephen Moffat himself explained Heaven Sent, its premise and setting, as a metaphor for dealing with grief, and we definitely see that in Capaldi's beautiful performance.
Whatever I do, you still won't be there.
Despite the fact that he's left alone to suffer and solve the fortress's riddle, Clara's presence is perceptible in his mind. Though we do not see her, he imagines her there in the TARDIS, asking him questions, challenging him to think and be a better person as she has always done. He talks to himself throughout the episode, obviously as a bridge to the audience, but really just to Clara, missing her and trying to cope with her passing. Like I said, his fury is slow and patient. He knows that this trap is set up by the Time Lords. He knows he has to give up information to be freed, but this information is also the only thing keeping him alive, as well as the only bridge to the Time Lords themselves, to Clara's possible salvation. So he decides to finally come home. The long way round. 4.5 billion years are spent punching a wall. 4.5 billion years fueled by quiet rage, grief, and love. If the Doctor is willing to submit himself to literal torture, dying and being reborn again, trapped in a senseless riddle, and punching a diamond wall until the universe dies, only to reach the slightest chance of rebelling against death itself and Clara surviving, what else could he be capable of? This long, beautiful, and at the same time agonizing story of two people unable to let each other go reaches its climax in Hellbent. Despite a largely disastrous episode, like literally none of the questions posed at the beginning are answered.
That's your best theory. I'm the hybrid.
And the long-awaited return to Gallifrey and Time Lords is completely wasted. It only really succeeds in giving us a heartbreaking ending to this turbulent relationship. Eventually, the Doctor tricks the Time Lords into saving Clara in exchange for his information on the hybrid, which he is not planning to give, as it is his only point of leverage, and also Moffat doesn't know who the hybrid is. When the General realizes that, he threatens to return Clara to her time stream. The mere thought of losing her again pushes the Doctor to disregard his own rules about using weapons that have been so hammered into the audience throughout his run.
Regeneration. 10th. Good luck. You too, Sam.
A lot of people find this particular act a violation of the Doctor's character and everything he stands for, and they're right, of course, but in this instance, the Doctor has already defied death and humiliated the most powerful race in the universe. What is shooting a little gun to help them escape? For the last time then, we see the Doctor-Clara duo work as a team, being attentive for each other, anticipating the other's next move, and one last time we understand that despite everything, they were a perfect match. Once more, Clara inadvertently mirrors the Doctor, confessing to him something the audience will probably never hear.
We should say things to one another. And I'm gonna say them now.
We asked Peter Capaldi and he refused to answer, and it is all obviously played as a joke on our feelings more like. The next bit puts me in such agonizing pain, I wish I could turn into a Cyberman. 12 and Clara are given their final goodbye. And for the first time in New Who, the memory of a companion is too great for the Doctor, and the only way to break the cycle is to let go.
Doctor? Still don't have a pulse.
The slowly disappearing smile on Capaldi's face signals the swiftly disappearing hope he had of saving Clara. This is when he finally realizes that they cannot go on like this.
Look how far I went for fear of losing you. This has to stop. One of us has to go.
Before he ever voices his plans to erase her memory, he fiddles with the neural block, deliberately drawing Clara's attention to it. He made the decision to part with Clara, but unable to inflict and also experience the pain of erasing a loved one's memory, he decides to leave it to chance. Three things are happening here. First of all, Clara shakes the Doctor back into consciousness and into conscious.
What am I doing?
And as always, reminds 12 of the good in him, completing the arc started in season 8. Second is that until their very last moments together, they lie to each other, again, to save each other's feelings. And 3. Finally, the Doctor treats Clara as equal, realizing that he should not be allowed to decide about one's own memories. They traveled as equals and they should part as equals, and therefore, the goodbye, as to not blame one, is left to chance. Clara becomes the first companion the Doctor forgets, and is one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in the entire show. Their love, however pure, full, and all-consuming, has become life-threatening for both of them, and they finally make the decision to step back. Their ending is the only possible ending suitable to these characters and these arcs. Clara has finally truly become a version of the Doctor, complete with a TARDIS and a companion, and the Doctor had a taste of his own medicine, being left with only the faintest memory of the Impossible Girl.